Good morning and welcome. My name is Esther Medina and I work for the Social Security Administration. Today I'm going to give a presentation on disability benefits. Today you will be learning about the difference between Social Security disability insurance and supplemental security income. You'll also learn the Social Security definition of disability, learn about the application process, and gain basic knowledge of how going to work might affect your benefits. Social Security pays disability under two programs: Social Security Disability Insurance, or SSDI, and Supplemental Security Income, SSI. Social Security disability pays workers under their full retirement age who are disabled or blind and their eligible dependents. Now, full retirement age used to be 65, but things have changed and now it's based on the year you were born. For example, if you're born between 1943 or 1954, your full retirement age is 66. If you were born 1960 or later, you have to wait till 67 for your full retirement age. Of course, early retirement is still at age 62. But for disability, you just need to be under your full retirement age in order to apply. For eligible dependents, those are children under the age of 18 who are dependent on a parent who is filing for benefits. The worker must be insured for benefits. And what we mean by insured is that the individual has worked long enough and recently enough to be insured for benefits. So if you have never worked or paid FICA taxes, then you would not be eligible for these benefits. And in general, the worker must have worked 5 years out of the last 10 years prior to becoming disabled. All benefits are paid from the Social Security Trust Fund, and the benefit amount is based on your lifetime average earnings covered by Social Security. Currently, the average disability benefit is about $1,064 a month. And if you are approved for Social Security disability, Medicare eligibility is automatic after 24 months of receiving benefits. You do not have to apply. It will happen automatically unless you choose not to accept Medicare. And Supplemental Security Income, or SSI. SSI pays people who are aged, and for this program we consider age 65 or older as aged, or an individual who is blind or disabled. And there's no minimum age requirement. A newborn child, if they meet the criteria, could be eligible for SSI benefits. We do not pay dependents under SSI. We pay only the individual with the disability. All benefits are paid from the General Tax Fund. They do not come from the Social Security Trust Fund. There is a maximum benefit that anyone on SSI can receive. It's the federal benefit rate, or the FBR. And for 2010, that amount is $674 for an individual and $1,011 for a couple. And when I say couple, I mean that both spouses have found to be disabled. SSI also has income and resource limits, so it is a needs-based program. And if you are found eligible for SSI, you are automatically eligible for Medicaid. In the state of Utah, although eligible for Medicaid, you are not automatically enrolled. Once you are approved for SSI, you still need to apply for the Medicaid benefits through the Department of Workforce Services. But as long as you remain eligible for SSI, you are eligible for Medicaid and cannot be denied. But keep in mind, it is possible to receive benefits under both programs. We call these claims concurrent claims. If you're receiving SSI and go to work, one day you might be insured for the SSDI program. At that point, you might receive under both programs, or if the SSDI is higher, you would switch over to Social Security Disability and the SSI would stop. Also, an individual who became disabled prior to age 22 might one day be eligible for childhood disability benefits, or CDB. Childhood disability benefits relate to adult children. Social Security does not pay minor children with disabilities other than under SSI. To be entitled to childhood disability benefits, you must be at least age 18 and unmarried, have a disability that began before the age of 22, have a parent who is receiving Social Security retirement or disability benefits, or have a parent who died after working long enough and paying Social Security taxes, and you must meet the definition of disability as an adult. If you have a child who is currently receiving on a parent's record as a dependent child, those benefits generally terminate at age 18 unless a full-time student. If this child has a disability, it's important that someone apply for the CDB benefits 5 months prior to the child turning age 18. This will prevent the benefits from ending. And if the child meets the definition of disability, those benefits will continue. So how does Social Security determine disability? Definition of disability is very strict under the Social Security guidelines. We have a definition of disability for an adult as well as a minor child. The definition of a child who is under age 18, the child is considered disabled if the child has a physical or mental impairment or a combination of impairments, which results in marked and severe functional limitations, and has lasted or is expected to last for at least 12 consecutive months or be expected to result in death. And the child cannot be working at a job and doing substantial work. Now, the definition for an adult, age 18 and older, is the inability to engage in any substantial gainful activity, SGA, by reason of any medically determinable physical or mental impairment or a combination of impairments, which has lasted or can be expected to last for at least 12 consecutive months or can be expected to result in death. Now, keep in mind that a child who has been receiving SSI under age 18, once they reach age 18, they will undergo a medical review to see if they still are found disabled under the adult criteria. You do not have to schedule any appointment. Social Security will contact you at the appropriate time. Generally, these reviews are completed within a year after turning age 18. Now, who are the decision makers? Well, Social Security employees are responsible for verifying all the medical or non-medical eligibility requirements. These are things such as verifying age, employment, marital status, or to verify if you are insured for Social Security. For SSI, it would be to verify if the income and resource limits are met. These are what we consider the non-medical eligibility. It has nothing to do with whether an individual is disabled or not. If the Social Security employee determines that the non-medical requirements are not met, the claim will be denied. And if the claim is denied at that point, it will not go for a medical determination. We won't consider the disability at all. Now, the Social Security employees also collect the medical information and transfer that medical information to the Disability Determination Service, or DDS. DDS is a state agency contracting with Social Security to make all our medical determinations. They collect the medical records from the sources that have been listed on the disability report. They may also send the beneficiary or the claimant to a consultative exam if necessary to collect additional medical evidence. If you want to understand more about the strict guidelines that the DDS must use and the process they use, you can go to their website, which is http://www.ssa.gov/professionals/general-info.htm. Boy, that's a mouthful. You might want to go on our website and find that directly yourself. I'll give you a little more information on that later. But remember, if the claim is denied by the Social Security employee for some non-medical eligibility requirement, DDS will not receive that claim. Also remember, if you apply for more than one program, you might receive a denial, which is not a medical denial, and then the other claim might be processed. So be sure you read that notice carefully. An example would be, if you apply for SSI, we will automatically take a claim for the Social Security disability to be sure that we haven't missed entitlement under another program. If you are age 18 or older and you've never worked, the Social Security claim would be denied based on the fact that you had never worked and paid FICA taxes. So you would receive a denial letter for the SSDI, but the SSI would continue being processed and it would be sent to DDS. Now, once DDS makes a determination, they return the file to the Social Security office, and then we complete any outstanding non-disability development. We compute the benefit amount, and we initiate payment of those benefits. If the claimant is found not to be disabled, we keep the file on hand for the appropriate time for the appeal process. Okay, now we're going to talk a little bit about the application process for those of you who have not gone through that at this time. Now, the application actually has two parts. The first part is when we collect all that non-disability, non-medical information, things such as your age, your address, your what your disability is, your family members, anything that's not directly related to disability. And at that point is when we would determine if the basic eligibility requirements were met. If so, then we're going to look at the disability report. So you have to complete both parts in order to have a complete application for either SSDI or SSI. Now, you can file in person, or you can have a phone interview where we will call you. Or if you are applying for SSDI, you can do both the application and the disability report online at our website. And our website is www.socialsecurity.gov. And again, I'll show you some helpful screens to help you in that process. Now, right now, let me just say that we do consider a child an adult at age 18. So in order to complete an application, if the applicant is 18 years or older, we do expect them to participate in the application process. If the individual is not capable of signing their name, in other words, if they have to sign with an X, that's okay. We accept an X with 2 witnesses. If the individual is not capable for other reasons in participating with the application process, if that individual has a legal guardian, the legal guardian can make the application for that person. If there is no legal guardian, a parent could assist the adult child in the application process, but could not do the filing on their own. The adult child would have to participate. The disability report that is necessary can be completed online, And we will go to some screenshots and talk a little bit more about that as well. But if you do not have internet access, that does not prevent you from applying. As I said, we can make phone appointments or you can come into the office in person. To schedule an appointment, you can call our 800 number, which is 1-800-772-1213. Usually we can make an appointment within a week to 10 days. So we're not usually too far out in a waiting time. We allow only 1 hour for an appointment slot, so usually that is the average time for the appointment. So it's very important that you be prepared. Gather all the information that we are requesting prior to the appointment or prior to going to the internet and logging on to the application or the disability report. It will make everybody's job much easier. Generally, it takes 3 to 6 months to process disability claims. And once the claim has been cleared, you will receive a letter explaining the decision and any appeal rights. Now, I know many think that everyone is automatically denied the first time, and I can understand how people might feel that way. But the best way to help you in this process is for you to be prepared, to take the time necessary to gather all the information that might be necessary. It is very important that we have everything in the file to make a proper determination. Now, the non-medical information that we'll be requesting is basically proof of citizenship or eligible non-citizenship status. You do not have to be a U.S. citizen to receive benefits under SSDI or SSI, but you do need to meet a specific eligibility category for a non-citizen. We generally will need a birth certificate, names and social security numbers for anyone in the household. That is generally for SSI. Household expenses, proof of income, pay stubs, self-employment, tax returns, or unemployment statements. Those, again, are mostly for SSI. SSDI, as a general rule, the only income that might affect benefits would be wages or possibly workman's compensation, or in some cases, if you were receiving some other federal or state benefit, disability benefit. But the claims representative of Social Security can walk you through that process. But for SSI, we do need to see proof of all income and all resources, bank statements, life insurance policies, stocks, bonds, anything that you own that could be turned into cash or used to buy food and clothing. SSDI does not have any sort of resource limit, so we will not need to have proof of what your resources are. Bank information or credit union information for direct deposit at the time of application is useful. Now, if any of this information you don't have on the day of your appointment, do not cancel your appointment or reschedule. We will work with you and give you time and assistance in obtaining the information we will need. Now, for the disability report, we have a disability report for adults and we have a disability report for a child. And it's very important that the proper report is completed. Excuse me. So on the disability report, we will have spaces for you to complete the name, address, phone number of all your medical sources. It's very important to list all sources that would have any information on any of your conditions that you consider being disabling. Because, as I mentioned, it could be a combination of impairments and not just solely based on one. So be sure to list all conditions you consider disabling to you. That will include all, then, the doctors, hospitals, clinics, institutions, therapists, caseworkers, anyone who has given you any type of treatment or consultation, because we will want to know the dates, the approximate dates, of the treatment and what type of treatment it was. What were you being treated for? Now, let me make clear we are asking for things related to disability. If the treatment or service was not related to a disability, such as possibly just the flu or a broken arm, something that did not contribute to your disability, you do not need to list those sources. We want to know the names of the medications you're on and the dosage. Again, anything you are taking for your disability. Laboratory and other tests, blood work, x-rays, EKGs, stress tests, anything, again, related to your impairment. We will also, for adults, ask for your work history for the past 10 years. And that might be a little tricky. That'll take a little more time to sit and walk back and think of all the types of work you've done in the past. But it plays a very important role in the disability determination process. You can submit any records that you have in your possession. We do not suggest that you go out and collect your medical evidence for a couple of reasons. Mainly, the doctors will probably charge you for your medical records, and we don't want you to have that cost. The DDS will send for all your medical records and absorb the cost themselves. But if you do have any copies that you can give us, that can help speed the process. And again, the disability report can be completed online, and it can speed up your interview time if an interview is necessary, because when you transfer the disability report, it shows up at the time of your appointment, and so the claims representative, the Social Security employee, can just kind of review the form with you, make sure you didn't miss any of the questions, and that can be much quicker than if they have to go through and ask you one question at a time. Now, for a child, there is another disability report. It has a different number. We'll ask for the basic same information, the name and address and relevant information for the doctors, hospital, clinics, so forth, the treatment, all that same information. Again, anything related to the impairment, names of medication, laboratory tests, all the same basic medical evidence. But in addition to that, we want to know where the child was attending school, if the child is of school age. We will want to know the teachers, the psychologists, counselors, the speech or other therapists that were involved in the child's care. If the child was in special education classes, we want to include the individualized family service plan if there is one, or the individualized education program, the IEP. If those are available, if you have copies of those, absolutely bring them to the appointment. Submit those with the application. With children, very often it is the school records that play the biggest role in a child's case. And again, you can complete the form online. Now, of course, the Social Security Administration encourages anyone with internet access to use our website and to do as much as possible online, but that by no means says that you have to. If you don't feel comfortable or you don't have access to a computer, please don't feel that you cannot complete these forms. There are other alternatives. Again, it is just important that you be prepared so when you come to your appointment and we assist you in completing the forms, you have all the information that we're going to ask you. Now, along with the disability report, you will need to include an authorization to disclose information. We call this the 827. And this is used to collect medical and education records, additional information from family, neighbors, friends, public officials. Occasionally, depending on the disability, DDS will want more information on how an individual functions on a day-to-day basis. These questions might involve their ability to clean house, to cook, how they socialize with other people. Do they get out of the house? Do they stay indoors all the time? Do they have a difficult time communicating? So those are some of the things that might be asked of family, friends, neighbors. So we will use the 827 to collect some of this information. It is very important for determining eligibility to see if the disability is severe enough and has lasted or is expected to last long enough to meet our very strict definition of disability. The 827 must be signed, dated, and witnessed. Whether you sign your name or an X, a witness is required. It's just if you sign with an X, we need 2 witnesses. The 827 is good for 12 months from the date signed, so it should last through the disability process. It can be printed from the website. So again, if you have access to the internet and a printer, you can print the 827 and submit it so we have all the information at the same time. And we cannot send the claim to DDS if we do not have a signed 827. So again, that's a way you can help to speed your application process, because the longer it takes us to get it to DDS, the longer the decision will take for them to make. Okay, now I'm going to show some screenshots of our website to help you kind of walk through to see how easy it is or how you can navigate to find the information that's necessary. Right in the center of the web page is where you can apply for benefits. Right in the middle, it is disability benefits. So if you click on the disability button, it will pull up a page, Disability Benefit Application. Apply online for disability benefits. Now, if you apply online, you don't need an appointment. So it's a quick way to do it from your home. You can take breaks if you need to, as long as you keep track of your log-off number, so you can log back in at a later time. But remember, this application is only for those who are age 18 or older and who have worked and paid into Social Security long enough to meet that insured status. So if it's an 18-year-old or older and they've never worked, this is not the correct application. And if it's a minor child, we need to go to yet a different application. So you'll see in the middle of the page the note. If you want to apply for disability benefits for a child, go to Applying for Disability Benefits for Children. And that is the link you will want to click on. You'll also notice at the bottom of that page you can print an 827. But for a minor child, you go to the Application for Disability Benefits for a child under age 18. And the first thing I would suggest you to do is to look at the Child Disability Starter Kit. You click on that, and it will bring up the sections of the Starter Kit. It tells you everything you need to know before you start the application process. It gives you some facts, it gives you a checklist, it gives you a worksheet. It also gives you a site where you can print the entire disability report before you even go in to complete it online. That way you can write in all the information, have the time to gather it up, put it on the form. Then when you click on that child disability report on the internet, you have all the information to fill it out. You can also have a printable version of the Disability Starter Kit. You can click on that and print everything out if it's easier for you to hold it in your hands. I'm kind of old school, and I like to have something in my hands when I'm reading or filling things out. And my eyes aren't as good as they used to be, and reading off the screen over and over sometimes is a challenge for me. So for a minor child, there's an extra help here, and I would highly suggest you print the report, and it makes the completion a little bit easier. But if not, you can at least look at the fact sheet, the checklist, and know exactly the type of information that will be requested. Now again, if the child is over age 18, you're going to want to go up in the corner and click on the Adult Disability Starter Kit. And that is essentially the same information, only for the adult. And you can print out the starter kit just like you could for the child. However, they don't allow the adult disability report. At this time, there's no way for you to print it first. So it's very important that you collect all the information on these other worksheets and then go online to complete your report. Or again, bring all that information to the appointment with you. And remember, even though you have completed the disability report online, You will still need an application, the non-medical application. So if it's SSI, be sure you have scheduled an appointment. Now I'm going to focus a little bit on SSI, the calculating of the payment. For Social Security disability benefits or the childhood disability benefits, the amount is based on the worker's earnings. And so the benefit amount is calculated off the earnings, how long the person worked, how high the wages. As a general rule, the longer you worked at a higher wage, the higher the benefit amount. But it is a calculated benefit amount. SSI works a little bit differently. As I mentioned, SSI has a maximum payment amount, the federal benefit rate. So regardless of where you live in the United States, the maximum you could receive under SSI, whether you're a child or an adult, is $674. A married couple who are both disabled, $1,011. Now, each state has the option to add to that federal amount. So it is possible that between the federal SSI check and a state supplement, you would receive more than that $674. But if you move from a state that has a state supplement, for example, California has a state supplement, and it's several $100s. So it's possible for you to get, about $800-something in California, move to Utah, and that benefit rate would drop all the way down to the $674. So it's important to keep that in mind if you're considering a move from state to state. The federal amount doesn't change, but the state supplement could. And then any income may lower the amount payable. So we start with a maximum of $674, but then we have to look at other income to determine if that benefit should be reduced. So again, because SSI is a national program, as is SSDI, they are both federal, the program follows you from state to state. But it is always important that you report to that new state. And then you will need to update your living arrangements and whatnot. And it's very important that you update the type of income you might be receiving. The income for SSI, we look at it differently. Earned income, which we consider wages or self-employment, any income you receive for providing a service or an item, a product, we count $1 for every $2 you earn, so 50%. Unearned income, such as unemployment, SSDI, pensions, that counts dollar for dollar. So $100 in wages would really be $50, whereas $100 in a pension would be $100. Then we have deemed income. We consider a portion of parents' income, or in cases of a couple, a spouse's income. We consider part of that income available to the child or the spouse. And that income is considered deemed income, deemed income is considered unearned income, and therefore counts dollar for dollar. In general, only the earned income may affect the SSDI or the CDB, although, as I mentioned earlier, there are some state or federal disability benefits that might offset Social Security disability, and then, of course, would just count as income for SSI as well. Now, I've included a Demeaning Chart to give you an idea. I'm always asked, how much can a parent have in income before their child would not be eligible for benefits? And again, this chart is located on our internet. But this gives the highest amount that a household could have, and the child would still be eligible for SSI. This is just general guidelines. But if you live in a household with one parent and you have only the one child with a disability, no other children in the household, that parent could earn up to $2,821 a month gross before that child would not be eligible. If there are two parents in the household, that amount increases to $3,495. Now, if all the income is unearned, it's very lower. In a one-parent household with all unearned income and only one child with a disability and no other children, the cutoff is $1,388. So you see, the income, whether it's earned or unearned, plays an important role. And keep in mind these deeming charts, if you have a combination of earned and unearned, these charts will not be accurate. Also, deeming stops the month after a child turns age 18, even if that child is still living at home. So we have a lot of parents who income resources are too high for the child to qualify, but then the month after they turn age 18, we look only at the child's income and resources, and many children then become eligible. Now, some of the income we do not count under Social Security for deeming purposes would be the temporary assistance for needy families, Department of Veterans Affairs pension, general assistance, foster care payments for an ineligible child, and income used to make court-ordered support payments. And if there's any doubt whether your income qualifies you or not, I encourage you to make an application, contact Social Security, because the only way we know for sure is to speak to you directly. Now I want to talk a little bit about living arrangements. Living arrangements refers to where you live, who you live with, what kind of payments are involved, who pays for the household expenses. And your living arrangements can affect your SSI payment amount. So not only are we looking at income when we're determining a payment amount, but the living arrangement may have an impact as well. Some of the living arrangements we look at: do you own or rent and pay all your food and shelter costs? Do you live in the household of another and you do not contribute toward food or shelter costs? This is often a young adult living at home who has no income at this time, and the parents are willing to support that child longer until they have income of their own. So if they're not contributing anything towards food or shelter, that's a certain living arrangement. If you own or rent, but you receive assistance with paying your food and shelter costs, or if you live in an institution. In general, if you own or rent and pay all of your own food and shelter costs and you have no other income, you will receive the full benefit amount. If you live with someone else and you do not contribute at all to the food or shelter costs and have no other income, your benefit would be reduced by a third. If you have home ownership or rental liability, but receive help in paying those costs, food and shelter, rent, mortgage, your benefit may be reduced based on the source of that assistance and the amount of the assistance. And in general, if living in an institution, benefits are reduced to $30 a month. Living in other institutions, such as a prison or state hospital, you would not be eligible for payment under SSI. So it's important that Social Security understands the living arrangement of the individual applying for SSI or once they're receiving SSI. A child living with a parent is considered in the same living arrangement as the parent. If the child does not live with the parent, then it could be a number of different living arrangements. Generally, if you receive SSI and leave the country for more than 30 days, you are not eligible for SSI. 30 days or more. But we do have special rules for children of military personnel who are living abroad. Okay, resources. As I mentioned, we also have resource limits under SSI. And resources are things that you own: cash, bank accounts, stocks, bonds, land, other than the land your home is on, vehicles, life insurance, anything you own that you could change to cash and use that cash for food or shelter. As a general rule, benefits paid both under SSDI and SSI, those benefits are meant to be used for your immediate use, food and shelter, to be sure you have what you need on a day-to-day basis. So it's very important if you have resources where you can use it for your food or shelter, then we have to take a look at that. Now, there are no restrictions under SSDI and CDB for resources. So someone receiving disability benefits or someone receiving the childhood disability benefits, their bank accounts can be as high as they choose. We are not going to look at resources for entitlement under those programs, but SSI, we have limits. An individual cannot have resources more than $2,000, actually $1,999 in any given month, or they will be over that resource limit. And that means we are adding all the things you own together. So if you have two bank accounts and you have $1,500 in one and $600 in the other, you have to add those together. You can't do the 2,000 resource limit each account. So total resources, if they add up, once you hit that 2,000 mark, you're not eligible. For a couple, that amount is $3,000. Now we can also deem resources. If a spouse or a parent spouse has resources, we will count an individual's resources up to 2,000, or one parent 2,000, two parents 3,000. If they have more than that 3,000, we can deem the excess resource to the child as long as it doesn't then exceed the child's resource limit of $2,000. So it is possible for parents and a child or a spouse with a disabled spouse to have more than just the minimum if we add it all together, but it can never exceed the total of the individuals added together. So if you have two parents in the household and one child with a disability, they could have a total of $5,000 in resources before they would not be eligible. Now, some of the things that SSI does not count as resources, we do not count the home you live in, regardless of its value, and the land it is on. Household goods and personal effects, wedding rings, engagement rings, just the common jewelry, burial spaces for you and your immediate family, burial funds for you and your spouse, each valued at $1,500 or less, life insurance policies with a combined face value of $1,500 or less, one vehicle regardless of its value as long as you use it for transportation for you or a member of the household. Retro, SSI, or Social Security benefits we will exclude up to 9 months before we would count them as a resource. Grants, scholarships, fellowships, or gifts set aside to pay for educational expenses for 9 months after receipt will not be counted as a resource. Okay, I have had the question on how will work affect benefits. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how going to work might impact your SSI or your SSDI. Social Security encourages beneficiaries to return to work, and we've set up some guidelines and what we call work incentives to kind of help that transition from benefits to work to more security and financial comfort. So work incentives are special rules for employment support that help preserve benefit eligibility, including health insurance. That is one of the biggest fears in a return to work, that you might lose your health insurance. Work incentives also serve as a safety net to help with that transition from benefits to work, and they are available under both programs, although they are administered and we have kind of different rules under each. A very good book that addresses all the work incentives is the Red Book, and that is at www.ssa.gov/redbook/. And again, there's an easier way to find that off the web. But if you don't read anything else when it comes to working, this is a great book. So what is substantial gainful activity, or SGA? Now, you may have remembered it was involved in the adult definition of disability, the inability to perform any substantial gainful activity. So SGA is a very important part of the eligibility process. One of the first questions we ask is, are you working? And if the answer is yes, we need to make an SGA determination. We need to look at your earnings to see if you are capable of working at that level. And if it is yes, then your claim would be denied. For 2010, the SGA level for disabilities other than blindness is $1,000 a month, and this is gross. So basically, if you can work and gross $1,000 a month, we would not consider you disabled. If you have blindness as your disability, you can earn up to $1,640 before SGA is an issue. Now, SGA also applies to SSI, but only at the initial claim. So whether you are applying for SSDI or SSI, we will ask you if you are working when you first apply. And if the answer is yes, we have to make an SGA determination. For SSI, then, once you are approved and you are starting to receive benefits, SGA is no longer an issue. We just would look at the earnings as wages and as income and how it might impact the benefit amount. Under SSDI, SGA continues to be a factor throughout the time you receive benefits. Work activity must always be reported to Social Security regardless of the benefits you are receiving. So first I'm going to cover the work incentives under SSDI or the Childhood Disability Benefits, the CDB. I'm going to talk about the most commonly used, the most commonly known. There are a few others that you can read about, but these are the ones that everyone will be looking at. We have a trial work period, extended period of eligibility, impairment-related work expenses, subsidies, special conditions, expedited reinstatement, and continuance or continuation of Medicare. So the trial work period consists of 9 months. This is 9 months that you have the ability to try to work, to see if possibly you can sustain employment. The 9 months do not have to be consecutive. You could have a month where you work, the next month you couldn't. You could work for a couple of months, find that your disability prevents you from continuing, and you might not work for another year. But the 9 months have to be completed within a 60-month period. We call it a rolling 60-month period. So if I work 3 months this year and I don't work again for 6 years, I'm outside of that 5-year rolling period. So my 3 months have dropped off. But many individuals will work most of their trial work period in a short period of time, but it is not necessary. During your trial work period, no matter how much you are making in earnings every month, you will still receive your benefit check. So in 2010, in order for us to count a trial work month, your earnings must be $720 a month gross, or if you are self-employed, it would be $720 net, or 80 hours a month. If you earn, say, $500 a month, that's not a trial work month, and it's not going to count. If you earn $721, that's a trial work month, and we start counting. So every month that you earn a minimum $720 in a month gross, that will count towards the 9 months. Once you have hit your 9 months, the trial work period ends. There is only one trial work period per period of disability. During this trial work period, we do not consider any other incentives. We only look at your earnings. And it doesn't matter if you earn $720 in a month or $3,000 a month. It is still one trial work month, and you would still receive your full benefit check. Now, once the trial work period ends, the very next month, whether you are still working or not, starts the extended period of eligibility, or the EPE. So you end your trial work period, and then the EPE starts, and it continues for 36 consecutive months. During those 36 consecutive months, or 3 years, full benefits are paid for any months where your earnings are below SGA. But any month that your earnings are over SGA, your benefit amount will be suspended. Medicare, if active at the time that you earn SGA, will continue for all months. But the first month of SGA after the end of the EPE will result in termination of cash benefits. So you work your 9 months, and at the end of that 9 months, Social Security will make an SGA determination. And if you are not performing SGA, or if you're not working at all, your benefits will continue. But then it's important that you let Social Security know if there's an increase in your pay, so that your SGA, which again in 2010 is $1,000 a month, if your earnings are above that SGA, your benefits should be suspended. And again, this is for SSDI or childhood disability benefits. Once you're on SSI, we're not going to look at SGA. So you're outside your trial work period and you're in your extended period of eligibility, you can use some of our work incentives. And a commonly used work incentive is impairment-related work expenses, or IRWE. These are items or services that are related to your disability that allow you to work. Now, these services or items must be paid for by you and not reimbursed by a third party, such as mom or dad or insurance. So you pay the expense yourself, and it must be of a reasonable cost. Generally, that reasonable cost is what Medicare would allow for the expense. We can take that cost then and exclude it from your earnings when we are making an SGA determination. Examples of impairment-related work expenses, or IRWEs, would be medications prescribed for the impairment, or if you have insurance, the co-pays. We can exclude the co-pays for medication, attendant care services, work-related assistance devices, modifications to a vehicle, service animals, and in some cases, transportation costs. So if you feel you might have a cost that would meet the definition of an IRWE, it's very important that you let Social Security know. If we don't know you have any of these costs, we're going to look at your gross income, and if over SGA, we will assume you are performing at that level and suspend your benefits. So I'm going to give you an example of what an IRWE is and how you might use it. Donna has gone to work and she earned $1,100 a month. She has many medications prescribed for her impairment. She does not have insurance that pays for these medications. Even if you have insurance, sometimes the insurance won't pay for all your medications. So she has to pay $220 a month for her prescriptions. Now, Donna's wages are over SGA, which is only $1,000. However, when we are making an SGA determination, we will look at those IRWEs, the amount she pays for that medication, which is $220, and exclude that from her wages of $1,100. So we will really only count $880 of Donna's earnings, which is now below SGA, and Donna's benefits will continue. So if you are working and you feel you have some of these expenses, it's very important that you provide documentation so that Social Security can make that determination. Now, the next work incentive is what we call subsidy, or some special conditions. And these are forms of support you receive on the job. Now remember, every work incentive has to be connected You have to connect the item or service with the ability to work. Now, it can be an item or service you need at home as well, but it has to be connected to work. So in subsidies, some examples of subsidy or special conditions would be a job coach, extra assistance from a coworker, or extended and more frequent breaks. And this support results in the individual receiving more pay than the actual value of the work. Social Security will only count the actual value of the work when making an SGA determination. So I have an example for subsidy. Subsidy is something that we need to look for, and there's nothing embarrassing about a subsidy, and it's important that you let Social Security know if you feel you are being subsidized on the job. The example I have today is of someone who is using a job coach. Bob, who works 30 hours a week at $9 an hour, is doing pretty well at the job, and he enjoys his job, but he still needs a little extra help, and he has a job coach 5 hours a week. So an hour every day, Bob has a job coach. So that's 30 hours a week at, whoops, I think I messed up on my calculations here. Sorry, everybody. But Bob works 30 hours a week at $9 an hour, so he earns $1,080 a month, which is over SGA, which is correct. However, he has a job coach 5 hours a week. Social Security will disregard the time Bob is working with his job coach when we are looking at the SGA determination. So 5 hours at $9 an hour, we don't do $5 at the job coach's wages. The 5 hours at Bob's wages of $9 an hour, that's $45 a week times, we'll just say 4 weeks in a month, would equal $180 a month. So $180 every month, that is the time that Bob is with the job coach, so he is not earning the full amount that he should be on his job. He is not performing everything. So Social Security will exclude the $180 from his wages, which brings the countable earning to $900, which is under SGA. So it's kind of a simple calculation, and it's just if you receive extra help at work, we need to know about it so we can make that calculation. That doesn't mean you're not a valued employee, that your work isn't important, but it can help with the determination of SGA and keep those benefits coming in the months you really need them. Another work incentive is called expedited reinstatement. Now, if you have gone through your trial work, you've gone through the extended period of eligibility, and then you perform that SGA, the benefits would be terminated. So if your benefits are terminated due to work, not medical recovery, and then that work ends because of your disability or drops below SGA because of your disability, you've had to cut back your hours, and the disability is the same as or related to the original impairment which allowed for the benefits. In other words, if we approved you for benefits because of epilepsy, and then you lost your job because of a diagnosis of cancer, that would be a brand new disability unless it was related to the epilepsy. But if it is related or the same as your original impairment, you can apply for expedited reinstatement, and we will start paying provisional payments for up to 6 months and initiate the Medicare, reinstate the Medicaid, the Medicare if it has stopped, and reinstate up to 6 months while Social Security reviews the disability. If you are found to be still disabled, then we would reinstate the benefits and make any adjustment and pay any of your dependents that had also lost benefits. Any of them who are still eligible would also be reinstated. Now, the request for expedited reinstatement must be made within 60 months of that termination. Now, those of you who have been on benefits for a while may know that sometimes benefits are terminated retroactively. And if that's the case, we look at the termination date as the date we actually made the termination, not if it should have been 2 years ago or longer. So the 5 years or the 60 months begins at the time we take the action to actually terminate the record. Now, the fear of losing medical benefits applies to all of us. And under Social Security, there are 3 parts to Medicare. You have Part A, hospitalization, which is free, no premium is due. Part B is the supplemental insurance, and there is a premium. The premium is currently, for most individuals, is the $96. And then there is Part D for the prescription drug plan. Now, in general, this coverage will continue at least 93 months following the end of your trial work period, provided you have already passed that 24 months and Medicare has been started. So if you have finished your trial work period and you have Medicare, it will continue a minimum of 93 months, whether you are in pay status or you're not in pay status, as long as you remain disabled by Social Security rules. And you must pay the premiums, because generally Medicare premiums are withheld from your your Social Security check. So if you're not receiving a check, you have to be sure those premiums are being paid, or the Medicare would stop. And if you never work and you have your Medicare, that will continue. The 93 months only applies after the trial work period ends. So Medicare can continue for an extended period of time. Okay, we're going to shift gears here and talk about SSI. So I want everyone to be clear in their mind that what I just talked about applies only to those receiving the Social Security Disability Benefits, SSDI, or the Childhood Disability Benefits, CDB. Now I'm going to talk about the SSI work incentives. And we have several under SSI. We have general exclusion and the earned income exclusion. SSI also has IRWEs, the impairment-related work expenses. There's a student earned income exclusion, plan for achieving self-support, blind work expenses, continuation of Medicaid, we call that 1619B, it's a great incentive, recovery during vocational rehabilitation, and we also have expedited reinstatement. Now, the general exclusion and the earned income exclusion. $20 will automatically be excluded from any unearned income. Now, remember, the unearned income would be a pension, unemployment. So we will exclude $20 from that, and then we count the remainder dollar for dollar. $65 of the gross earnings will automatically be excluded, and then 1/2 of the remaining would be counted. If all your income is earned income, you don't have any pension or unemployment or any unearned income, then we would add the $20 to the $65 for a total of $85 in exclusions from your wages. Now I'm going to give you an example here. We have a person who is working and earning $361. They will get the $65 exclusion from those earnings, and because they don't have any unearned income, they also get the $20 general income exclusion. So that would lower those wages to $276. Then we would exclude half of that, which would be $138. So the countable income would be $138. We would subtract that countable earned income of $138 from the federal benefit rate, which is the $674, for a new SSI payment of $536. Now keep in mind that that is still a gross income of $897 a month, which is much higher than the SSI payment of $674. Now I want to give you an example of someone who earns even more money. This individual earns $1,000 a month. Again, we exclude the $65, and because there's no unearned income, we add that $20 exclusion. So that brings the $1,000 earnings down to $915. We exclude half of that, which remains the countable income of $457.50. Take that from the federal benefit rate of $674, and the new SSI payment would be $216.50. Again, the total gross income for the month would be $1,216.50. As a general rule, anyone on SSI is financially better off when they work. One more example of when you have combined income. So this would be someone who, in this example, is receiving SSDI and SSI, and they go to work. So SSI would exclude $20 from the SSDI check of $361. So we would count $341 from that Social Security check. Then the person earns $500 a month in wages. We exclude $65 and then divide it by 2. So the countable earned income would be $217.50. We then add the unearned countable income and the earned countable income together for a total of $558.50 in countable income. You subtract that from the $674, the SSI payment would be reduced to $115.50. Total gross monthly income would be $976.50. So in this example, if you recall, my first example had $361 in wages, and the SSI check was higher. But unearned income is counted much stronger. So it's important to remember the difference between unearned and earned and how it affects the benefits. Okay, as I mentioned, SSI also has IRWEs, the impairment-related work expenses, and the requirements are the same as they are for the SSDI. The items and services must be related to the disability and necessary to work. You must pay for the cost yourself and be a reasonable cost. However, we do not look at SGA anymore for SSI, so the cost can then be used to reduce the countable income. So here's an example of working when you have an IRWE. In this scenario, I am earning $800 a month. We subtract the $65 in earned income exclusion, and then because all my earnings are wages, I get the $20 exclusion, which leaves $715. But I also have $50 a month I pay in co-pays every month. And so I can subtract that from the $715, which leaves $665. Divide that in 2, which leaves $332.50 as my countable income. So that from the total $674, my SSI benefit check would be reduced to $341.50. Now, all these examples I have given you apply to an individual. If you are a parent working, the calculations are very similar for determining if there is any income we will deem to your child. But it's very important that you contact Social Security and always report your wages so that the proper calculations can be made. The next work incentive is the student earned income exclusion. The definition of a student for Social Security is a student is under age 22 and attending school on a regular basis. Now, the regular basis is dependent on the grade and the school. So we would have to have verification from the school that they meet the criteria. Generally, attending high school on a regular basis, the regular core classes, qualifies as a student. Social Security will exclude up to $1,640 a month in 2010 in earnings when figuring the countable income, with a yearly maximum of $6,600. And this exclusion is taken before the earned income exclusion or the general exclusion. So before any other exclusions, we will take the $1,640. Now again, this is the student's exclusion, so it is the student that is working. Now I have included a chart that shows you how this student exclusion would work. If an individual in January, the student is not working, so they still have $6,600 in a balance in the exclusion. In February, they go to work part-time, $240 is all they make. We exclude all $240, so wages would not impact the benefit. And you can see on the chart as they earned each month, we can exclude the wages, and then that balance of the exclusion goes down. And in this scenario, they didn't even use all the $6,600 in the year. So then the following year, if they meet the student status, they start again with $6,600. Once they have capped out at that $6,600 for the year, then we would go back to counting their wages as we would normally. But I think the student earned income exclusion is an excellent way for students to try their hand at working. And even if it's a summer job, it is still considered a student if they plan to return to school when it starts again in the fall or whenever the semester or the quarter begins. We will still consider them a student throughout the summer. So if they have a summer job, they could have this exclusion as well. So it doesn't matter if it's summer or after school, if they meet the criteria of a student, they will have this exclusion. We also have a plan for achieving self-support. We call this a PATH. This is a program where an individual can set aside income and or resources to use in reaching a specific work goal. The income or the resources that are used in the PATH are excluded. So if you use income in the past, it's excluded for countable income when we determine the payment amount, or the resources are excluded and do not go towards the resource limit. The plan must be in writing, listing the steps and costs necessary to reach your goal. The plan must be approved by Social Security, and it is monitored for progress. All plans submitted in Utah are processed by the Denver PATH cadre. Now, who can apply for a PATH? Well, anyone who is at least 15 years old, receives SSI, or could be eligible for SSI if we approve the PATH. In other words, if your income, if it's only your income making you ineligible for SSI, if you are setting aside a portion of that income into your PATH, and that would make you eligible, then we would accept a PATH from you. You must have a disability based on our rules, and you must have some other income or resources to set aside. You cannot set aside your SSI check to go into a PATH. You have to have wages, you have to have unearned income, some other income or resource in order to exclude it. You must agree to perform the employment goal and to use the excluded income and resources only for the expenses that we have approved. When you submit a PATH, you are telling us specifically what you want to do as a work goal. A work goal would be, I want to be a truck driver. A work goal would be, I want to teach third grade. I want to be an elementary school teacher. I want to be a cook. Whatever your occupational goal is, you can set up a PATH for that goal. Then you list each step necessary to reach that goal. Now, some of the things that a PATH can pay for with that set-aside money would be school or training expenses, such as tuition fees, books or supplies, supplies to start a business, employment services, such as a job coach. If you are working but you need the services of a job coach and you have to pay those services yourself, you could write a PATH and use some of your wages, set them aside to cover the expenses of a job coach. And your PATH plan then would be set up to result in a gradual decrease on the dependency of that job coach. So there's many opportunities under a PASS. A PASS can also help cover attendant care costs, equipment and tools to do a job. You may have a job, but you have to buy your own tools to perform that occupation. Transportation to and from work. If you have an opportunity for employment, especially in a rural area, but there is no way of transportation, there's no public transportation, there's no way for you to get to work unless you have a vehicle, a PASS could be used in that scenario as well. Also, uniforms, special clothing, safety equipment. A PASS is an excellent opportunity if you understand how it is used. And we have excellent resources for you to help in that area. Blind work expenses. These are for individuals whose disability has been determined to be blindness. But these expenses are similar to IRWIs, only they do not need to be related to blindness. Examples are professional dues, union dues, state, federal, and local taxes, Social Security taxes, meals at work, transportation, anything that is necessary to get a job, maintain a job, anything related to working essentially could be excluded. And these exclusions are taken after we have already taken the half reduction from the earnings. So blind work expenses are quite extensive, and anyone who has blindness and works will definitely have blind work expenses that we can exclude from the countable income. Next, I want to talk about continuation of Medicaid, or we call it 1619B. Again, I mentioned this is an excellent work incentive. As you work and your earnings go up, eventually your earnings will be high enough that the SSI cash benefit will zero out. You will not get a cash check for SSI. However, that does not mean the Medicaid will terminate. So to qualify for the continuation of Medicaid, or the 1619B, you must have been eligible for at least one regular SSI check. You must remain disabled by Social Security rules. You must meet all the non-medical eligibility rules, such as income and resource limits other than your wages. You need Medicaid in order to work, and you earn under the Medicaid threshold amount, which in Utah currently for 2010 is $28,381. If you meet this criteria, Medicaid eligibility continues. So even though you're not getting a cash benefit under SSI, if the only thing making you ineligible are your wages, and they're under this threshold, you will maintain your Medicaid. And it will be the same Medicaid you had if you were actually getting a check under SSI. So I think this is an excellent opportunity. And again, those wages, we will still look at work incentives. So you could earn quite a bit higher than that $28,381. But by using the work incentives, you could keep it below. And even if you were to go over that amount, you would lose your Medicaid, but your SSI record would not terminate for 12 consecutive months. And anytime you're in 1619B status and your work changes, which would allow us to pay you a benefit, you need to let us know. And then we can update your claim, look at your file, make sure we have all the information correct, and start paying you benefits again. Then if you go back into 1619B, we just adjust the record again. And you can remain in 1619B indefinitely as long as you meet the requirements. Okay, recovery during a vocational rehabilitation. We call it Section 301. This is a little difficult to explain, but what happens is everyone, whether you're on Social Security disability, childhood disability benefits, or SSI, if you're receiving any type of disability benefits, you will on occasion have a medical review, a CDR. We call it a continuing disability review. We will review your medical impairments to see if you are still disabled, if you still meet the criteria. So if you have a review, but at the time of that review you are actively participating in an approved vocational rehabilitation program, this would indicate to DDS a possible Section 301 case. If you are found to no longer be disabled by our rules, the benefits can continue until you complete that vocational program if it is determined that you will be self-sufficient at the end of the program. So if they feel that by continuing through the program you will be in a position that you will be able to work and work sufficiently enough to no longer need Social Security benefits, then we will continue paying Social Security until that program is completed. Now, if you drop out of the program, then we would stop the benefits sooner. This provision, though, also can help students. If a student is participating in an IEP and an approved VR program providing services, then they could fall under the Section 301. Now, Section 301 also applies to SSDI beneficiaries and CDBs. Although we don't see it very often, it is something that everyone needs to be aware of. I would say mostly our students need to be aware of this because, as I mentioned earlier, an SSI child will have a medical review at the age of 18, and if they're terminated, then they would lose benefits. But if they are still participating in an IEP and an approved VR program, those benefits could continue if they meet the requirements. Something for you just to keep in mind. And SSI also has expedited reinstatement. It's the same rules as SSDI, work ended because, or your benefits ended because of work. The difference is we have to keep in mind under SSI the 1619B. As long as you're in 1619B, your record does not terminate. So the only way you would need the expedited reinstatement is if you lost benefits because your earnings went higher than the 1619B threshold, and after a year of being in a non-pay status because of your wages, your SSI record terminated. And then once that SSI record terminated because of your work activity, and then you stopped working or your earnings dropped below SGA, then for SSI you could apply for expedited reinstatement. It's just because of that 1619B work incentive that we seldom see EXR for an SSI-only beneficiary. Okay, not that we haven't already covered a lot of information, I'm going to talk just a little bit about the Ticket to Work program. And this is actually what a ticket to work will look at. Many of you may have seen this. Many of you will in the future. The Ticket to Work program is a voluntary program. No one is required to participate. It is available to anyone between ages 18 to 64 who currently receives SSI or SSDI. Now, a child receiving SSI who turns age 18 will not be issued a ticket until they have undergone their age 18 medical review. So a child age 18, as soon as they go through that review, a ticket will be mailed. Anyone who is just approved for benefits will receive a ticket in the mail. So the ticket can be used to receive employment or vocational or other services to help in going to work. Again, the focus is on employment. Now, the services are provided by approved employment networks. We call them ENs. So you receive your ticket, and you can take it to one of these employment networks, and see what kind of services they can provide so you can go back to work. And the goal of the program is to help beneficiaries earn enough money to lessen their dependency on Social Security cash benefits. Now, the advantages of using a ticket is that by using your ticket, you have more choices of where to go for the needed services. Medical continuation disability reviews, the CDRs that I mentioned, will be suspended if you are participating in the ticket program and making progress towards your goal. So if that CDR comes up and it makes you a little nervous, if you're using your ticket, we will put that off until a later time, until you are no longer in the ticket program. And by using your ticket, it opens up additional opportunities for job placement. Now, also in the Ticket to Work, there is a built-in support network. The Area Work Incentives Coordinator, AWIC, that's my position. And we also have Work Incentives Planning and Assistant Projects, they're WIPAs, and the Protection and Advocacy for Beneficiaries of Social Security, or PABs. Now, as AWIC, it is my job to promote the understanding of work incentives. I do a lot of public outreach, presentations, trainings. I provide training to the public as well as other Social Security employees. I do handle some disability work issue cases as needed and special work issue workloads. But basically, I am the work incentive specialist for Area 1 of the Denver region. I do my job in Utah. My office is in Salt Lake City, but I also travel to North and South Dakota and Montana. That is the area of my responsibility. I do a lot of work with the WIPAs, the Work Incentives Planning and Assistance. These are community organizations that have a contract with Social Security under the Ticket to Work to provide certain services for our beneficiaries, whether SSI or SSDI. The Community Work Incentives Coordinator, or a CWIC, will provide the support and information. They are excellent resources for explaining all the work incentives. They will sit you down on a one-to-one meeting and verify exactly what type of benefits you receive. Then they can sit down, and it's not only Social Security benefits, but if you're on housing, you have food stamps, you have Medicaid, you have veterans benefits. They can pull all that information together, explain exactly what type of benefits you receive, and how going to work might affect those benefits. So they are excellent on explaining benefits, work incentives, helping you develop individual employment goals, and using your ticket to work. They often hold what they call WISE, which are Work Incentive Seminar events, where you can attend and meet the WIPA and other providers in the area to see if you can make connections, possibly use your ticket, and return to work. And their services are free. The protection and advocacy part of the Ticket to Work is provided by the Disability Law Center here in Utah. They can assist in removing barriers to any type of situation when returning to work. They can help explain what your rights are as an employee, what your rights and responsibilities are when it comes to requesting accommodations under the ADA, and what the rights and conditions are for employment, what the employer can and cannot do. They also can help with benefits and work incentives, and they can access and provide help with you in accessing or disputing any type of community service providers. If you have, for example, gone to vocational rehab, I'll pick on VR today, and you have not been happy with their service and you think you have a complaint that cannot be resolved through the proper channels of voc rehab, you can go to the PABs and they will help resolve this dispute or help you obtain access to places perhaps you could not when it comes to employment. And their services are also free. Now that I've told you about applying, what disability is, a lot of our rules, and how work might affect your benefits, I'm going to talk a little bit to you about your reporting responsibilities. Now, it's very important that you report to Social Security, and you need to remember you might have Social Security benefits, whether it's SSI, SSDI, and you also have Medicare, you also have Medicaid, you might be on housing, you might be working through workforce services. You have to remember to report to all these entities that require reporting. So you may you may report to Medicaid. That does not mean Medicaid has reported to Social Security. If you report to us, we do not report to anyone else. So I am talking about Social Security, and it's very important to report any changes to us. Some of those changes, address. If you move, you always have to give us your current address. It's very important that we know the mailing address. If our benefit checks are mailed out, they get returned. It holds up payment. We will often send out notices. If those notices come back address not known, we can actually suspend benefits. So a change of address, and if you're SSI, a change of living arrangement, household changes is very important as well. If your name changes due to divorce or marriage, we should know. A change in direct deposit. If your checks are coming direct deposit and you need to change banks, we really need to know, and I would suggest you not, if possible, close your original account until you're sure the new account is accepting your direct deposit. Any work in activity, I cannot stress enough, work activity must be reported. Any other income received or stopped. It's as equally important to report to us when you stop working or you stop receiving unemployment, because if we don't know it stopped, we're going to still be reducing your benefits. So when any type of income starts or stops, we need to know. And this would apply to SSDI as well, whether it's work or unemployment. Report, stop, and receiving anything that's different than when you applied. Change in resources for SSI. If you get an inheritance, if you have been given something that we would consider a resource, any changes in your resources. I already said any change in your marital status. Even if you don't change your name, if your marital status has changed, we need to know. For SSI, it very well could make a living arrangement change or an income change. Change in child custody. If that child you are responsible for no longer lives with you, we need to know. And when in doubt, report. This is not an all-inclusive list of what you need to report. And so basically, any change, report. If you're not sure, call and report. I'd rather you report something that is not important than you assume we won't care about the change and have it result in an overpayment or an underpayment. Now, how to report. There are several ways you can report changes. You can call our toll-free national number, which is 1-800-772-1213. They are open daily other than weekends and holidays from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. They are a national teleservice center. That is not our national office. It is a teleservice. So it is just people answering the phone, answering your questions, taking your information. So that is one way you can report changes. You can also contact your local Social Security office. You can contact them by mail, in person, by phone, or fax. And there are 5 local offices in the state of Utah. Now, those of you receiving SSI may want to inquire about the SSI telephone wage reporting. You can get the instructions on how to use this system from your claims representative, or CR, the one who is handling your claim. So if you are currently working and on SSI and you're sending those pay stubs in the mail every month, ask your claims representative about the wage reporting system to see if you meet the requirements to use this monthly reporting. It is much easier. It is immediately put on your record, so So there's no one having to photocopy pay stubs, manually calculate them. It is a great system, and I encourage everyone to ask if they qualify to use it. There are a few limitations on who can use that system, but for those of you who can, it is an excellent way to report your wages. Now, I'm including the addresses and phone numbers and fax numbers for all 5 of the local offices. So I have the office in Salt Lake City, which is located right downtown. There's an office in Ogden, Utah. There's an office out in Murray, in Provo, and in St. George. Now, generally, all claims are handled based on a zip code address. Your mailing address zip code is who has jurisdiction of your claim. That does not mean you can't go into any Social Security office to ask questions or to apply for benefits. If you apply for benefits in an office which is out of your, or you live out of their jurisdiction, they may at a time transfer it to the other office. But by no means you have to go to your specific office if you just want to turn something in or ask a question. Now I'm including some resources. I said I would kind of help you walk through the steps so you knew where to go. I know I've given you a lot of information. You might already have fallen asleep or turned off your computer. But if you're still with me, here's a screenshot of what our website looks like. I've circled disability up there. I want to point out a couple of other things that are on there. Since we were just talking about Social Security offices, on the left-hand side, about 2/3 down, it says find a Social Security office. If you're in doubt of which office is over your area, put in your zip code and it'll tell you exactly which office you should go to. If there's an office that's closer to you, you still can go there, but please keep in mind that we like to keep the actual claims in an office with jurisdiction. But there's a lot more information there for you. But if you go on and click disability, not the apply for disability, but the disability up on top, it pulls up Social Security Disability Insurance Program. And it lists a lot of information there. It talks about work incentives. It talks about adults becoming disabled prior to age 22. But also, just about down the bottom there, it says frequently asked questions. That's frequently. And if you click there, there's all sorts of questions people have already asked. Many of the questions that you yourself may have, such as the differences between Social Security Disability and SSI, or receiving Social Security and SSI, or benefits for disabled children. The questions have already been asked, and if you click on those questions, you'll see the answer. So it's a very helpful way to go. You go there, your question probably has already been asked and answered, or you can also ask a question. I've also included on here the contacts for the Denver Pass Cadre in Colorado. I've also included the contact information for the WIPAs, or the benefit planners, including their phone number and website, and the Disability Law Center if you have any issues regarding employment and your disability. I've also included a good 2 pages of other helpful links. Now, most of these, if not all, are from our website, but sometimes if you have the direct link, it's easier to get to than searching on the website. But everything I've talked about today and more is on the website. Disability benefits, SSI, understanding the earned, unearned income about SSI and the countable income examples. Instructions on the SSI telephone wage reporting system is on our website. Deeming information, the Demeaning Chart, instructions, more helpful tips, living arrangements, everything. And if you really want to get involved in the criteria of disability, how DDS makes that decision, the steps they have to go through, the last link I provided was for the Blue Book, Disability Evaluation under Social Security. That gives you the listing. It tells you what medical conditions there are, what symptoms are required. It really gives you a lot of medical information, plus the step-by-step process that DDS must go through. So if you want to learn more about the entire disability process, that's a great place to go to. And finally, I provide my contact information. I am definitely a resource for anyone with questions. I do not take claims. I do not process initial claim workloads, but I can answer questions and I can help find answers to those things that I don't know. So again, I am Esther Medina. My phone number is 866-725-6592, and my extension is 26383. I also have email, which is probably the better way to contact me because I'm often out of the office or on my phone, but I check my email constantly, and it's Esther, ESTHER, .Medina, MEDINA, @SSA.gov. And that is the end of my presentation today. For those of you who are still with me, I thank you for attending and hanging in there. I hope the information was helpful. I would love to hear from you if you thought it was helpful or if you thought it was not. And I hope that the days are good and happy. And thank you again.
Archive